Hello, listener. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. Yep, I'm already dropping jewels just by you listening to this podcast. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. How simple is that? Anchor will do all the work for you by distributing your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Not to mention, you can make money from your podcast as well with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So what are you waiting on? Download the Anchor app and get busy. I could remember, it was the Simba. We had it bad, young king like I'm Simba. We used to cut class, hard work of a sinner would get in your ass if I grew to be bigger. But that's a different path, instead was bullied cause I truly missed growing in the class in the middle thinking we was rich. Never talked with slang, but when we hang, talked a lot of shit. Figured out with bang, felt the gang was the answer quiz. Pop, 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 the street corners, thug G's and marijuana was the lesson till it changed to fiends and baking soda. All we want is a block and the key if that door locked. Behind it, our childish needs are things we never got. And we looking for more, cause less was in the spot. So now I'm a rock star, that drink could get you locked. Ordered up the SWAT, rushing down the block, kicking in the door to somebody that never thought twice about protecting anybody in his home. Now he sits in the jail while the killer's at home. Pop, 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 the EMT getting the rest full of sleep. Now she's sleeping forever cause she resting in peace. The ownership. Yeah. Call it ownership. Is it ownership cause we trying to get a lot of it? Is it ownership cause we trying to get a hold of it? Is it ownership cause we just want our own? Die in the streets cause we looking for more. Ownership cause we looking for a lot of it. Is it ownership cause we trying to get a hold of it? Is it ownership cause we just want our own? Die in the streets cause we looking for more. All we want is our own. All we want is a home. All we want is a Benz that is sitting on chrome. All we want is our kids to be bigger than Jordan. Shoes that we buy in the stores of the poor. We just want to live big like the kings did before. We didn't start out as slaves. We was put here for more. Hello, listener. Inconsistently Consistent Podcast. See, I was going to start this podcast totally different, but we here today and we talking about ownership. You know, we as a people are too busy chasing the bag instead of writing their own checks. So I look at somebody like Master P as a prime example of somebody that's out there in the culture writing his own check. It didn't start out like that, but at least he's writing his own check. He's writing his own future. So I looked at myself as a young mogul like that, starting out with Inconsistently Consistent Podcast, with weird clothing, with the albums, you know, and it just doesn't stop there. You know, I own 100% of the rights of all my recordings and what I decide to put out. I'm the boss. That doesn't mean I don't work for somebody else, though. Everybody's got to get a little paper somewhere. Don't always make ends meet. But it's a very important topic. Ownership. Are you sitting there wishing to have your own, but living in the shadows of someone else? Are you making somebody else rich? I've talked about this issue once before in some mini segments that I was doing for Instagram back when I was just trying to get the word out. You know, I talked about, you know, being the owner, being your own boss. So what does that feel like? What does that feel like to be your own boss? Well, I can tell you for me, it's a bit of highs and lows, right? Because I have my own company, Weird, and The high for me is the being able to own my own company. The lows sometimes could come across as because I'm not reaching out to more people, you know. And I don't want to make this all about my situation, but I have to interject myself into this conversation just because I am a owner. You know, the crazy thing about it is that I think that we've all been brainwashed and conditioned to chase, hunt, and survive. You have to be on the side of control in order to control anything in your destiny. So I was having a conversation with a listener of mine, and the story goes like this. She brought an idea to me. She said, "Hey, what do you think about this business that I'm starting?" Okay. So I had her pitch me. Let me hear what you got. So she pitched me. She told me what she was planning on doing. But what I heard was that she was going to someone else and she was asking them, "Hey, let me pay you to get on. Let me pay you to start my own company." And inside of my head, to me, that's just ass backwards, right? You don't go out trying to start a business asking somebody let me take that back. You don't go out starting a business paying someone to start your business. It's just That's just not the way that it works. You always have to invest in yourself in order to see yourself get further ahead and see yourself be successful in your own business. It's going to take a lot of sweat. It's going to take a lot of grind for you to get there. But the point is that you have to start out investing in yourself in order to see your business grow. So she continued pitching me and talking to me about her business and what she wanted to do on down the line. So I did a quick couple of searches in her line of business and told her exactly what she needed to do in order to make her business pop. You know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly what her business is because that's not my business to do. But the point is it's a nice little business venture to go into. And I'm just always one of those people that can see the angles and can see outside of the box and what needs to happen within somebody else's business, as well as my own. It might take me a little longer to come up with the move that I would like to make, but the point is that I can always see someone else's vision quicker. And so I told her how to start out and do it for herself. You don't need to pay anybody to get your business started. Not only that, right? Not only that, when you pay somebody and you don't own what product you're putting out or whatever you're trying to do with someone, when you don't own it and somebody is giving it to you to sell for them, one, they have every right to take whatever you decide to do away. So you could be the best fucking salesperson in the world. You do one thing wrong or one thing that goes against that company's brand, you're finished. Two, so once you got that understood in regards to you don't own what you're putting out if you decide to go with someone else. Two, you're pushing out a product, or you may be pushing out a product with someone else's name on it. Somebody else's name is attached to the product that you're pushing out. 9 times out of the 10, you're pushing out a product that you haven't really fully researched and seeing if their morals or their values even line up with what you want to do within your company or within your business. So you take the chance and you take the risk of trying to push out somebody else's product that you have no idea what their background is. This is why it's so important for you to do your research. Do your research. I am a firm believer in YouTube University. Anything you want to know, it's on the internet. It might be through a Google search. You might not always hit the lottery by looking on YouTube and finding out what you need to know. But I can tell you from other instances and from other people that are in my background that YouTube University and looking and researching what you want to do is there. It's all there. Because there's millions of motherfuckers that's just like me, and there's million motherfuckers that's out there that's putting videos together that don't mind sharing the information. Come on now. We about dropping jewels today. We about talking about some real shit, ownership. And the fucked up thing about it is in my flow, in my rap, in the beginning of it, right? As little black kids that grow up in the ghetto or impoverished areas, right? We turn to slang and drugs. We turn to crime. We turn to bullshit because we're looking for ownership. We want to own what we're trying to do. That's why you might see that young man out there who can shoot a wicked ass jump shot, but he's also selling too. He's also fucking slanging. That's why you see that, because we want to own something. But we were all conditioned not to own, not to even think about ownership. So I can give you a prime example. Let's just take me for an example, because I heard this as well when I first started out with this podcast. This is a subject that really sits beside me, and it took me a while to actually think about how I wanted to approach this situation and how I wanted to talk about it, only because I feel so passionate about it. So I'm looking and I'm researching on YouTube University, and I'm looking to see how to start a podcast. What's things that you might want to know? What's things you might need to know on down the line? I'm doing my research because this is what I'm getting into as the next project, right? So one of the videos or viewers that I was watching, and forgive me, I do not remember the person that I was watching. I should tell you guys who I was watching, but that's besides the point, because there's a million fucking videos out there that talk about starting your own podcast and what you need to do, right? That anchor ad in the beginning of me talking in this before the podcast, that's not just for bullshit. That's literally telling you how to start your own podcast and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. That's literally giving you the key, right? Because I want you as the listener, I want you to own your own. I want you to do your own thing, right? And I know the flip side to that, right? Because I get way off track. Like I said before, I'm a scatterbrain. I get way off track. But the point is, look, I want you to have your own. I want you to look at me as an example and say, you know what? If he could do it, I can do it. Because for so many years, I sat around, even before I put out any of the albums, even before I put out, well, I guess it would sound around the same time as Weird, but just coming back to the music, anytime before I had put out any of the music, before I did anything of this nature, a podcast was on my brain. I wanted to do a podcast. I just didn't know how to do it. And my lazy ass didn't go to do the research and what I wanted to do. You know what it was for me in the beginning? I was afraid. I was really scared to actually do a podcast because I figured, fuck, I don't know what to talk about. But look at me now. I'm 5 episodes in and I'm still fucking running my mouth. I guess I can't shut up. Anywho, so back to the story that I was talking about. So pretty much the video that I was watching, this young lady explained that you want to be able to own your own recordings. You want to be able to control where your recordings go. I was like, oh, that's dope. That's smart. I like that point. I wrote it down. So when I go to Anchor, yeah, I can use Anchor's platform and record my podcast. But then if I do that, guess who owns my recording? Not Weird Recordings. Anchor does. So if one day Anchor decides they want to go down, something happens with the CEO, something happens with the business, it just doesn't work out, and all of my recordings are gone, where the fuck am I? Back to square one, back to trying to start up another podcast, trying to get my listenership again.
I know you're enjoying the show, but we gotta pay some bills. Period.
I started my own clothing line. It's called Weird. What is weird and why would you want to wear it, you ask? Well, let me explain. Weird stands for wonderful, entertaining, interesting, rich dork. If you can't find out who you are in one of those words, then this is simply not for you. I created this brand as an anti-bullying clothing line. But for you, it may mean something totally different, and that's okay. Your clothes should have a meaning. With Weird, it's right front and center, if you're only looking for what's on the surface. So if you feel like me, pick up some Weird, wear it proudly, and support something good. You can check it all out at weirdclothingcompany.com. That's Weird Clothing Company, the small brand that fights back. Now back to the show. You cannot be an owner. Let me repeat. You cannot be an owner if you do not know what you're doing. See, owning your own company sounds great, and it sounds like, the biggest win ever. But if you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to fail a lot quicker than you succeed. And there's nothing wrong with failing. Don't get me wrong. I champion failure only because failure makes you stronger. Failure in a mistake or whatnot makes you learn not to go down that same path again. So I champion failure. I wear failure like a badge of honor. But just in the things that I've learned, being an owner or pushing out my brand, I've did so much research in the fact of learning what's good, what doesn't work, what works, how much money do I get from this, what's the cut, right? Because I don't look at me being with Anchor, me being with my clothing brand company, my websites, I don't look at those as, these are platforms that I'm using. I look at those, whether it be Shopify, whether it be Printify, whether it be Anchor, whether it be Apple, Spotify, the list could go on. I do not look at these companies as a platform to be able to hawk my shit. I look at these platforms as partnerships. Yes, I'm partnered with you so I could put my brand out. And also, I'm giving your brand some shine at the same time. See how my mind works? It doesn't look at like, oh man, I can use this and get all my information out on the platform. No, this is a partnership. I'm partnering with you. I chose to use you to be able to put my shit out. Because there's always other ways around it. I want you to think like that. There's always other ways around this shit. You do not have to settle for just one. There's always other ways around it. And there's always other ways to start a business or within your business. It's called rebranding. So you might start out a business one way. Matter of fact, prime example, I just spoke to a listener of mine who wanted some information on rebranding. In her mind, she wanted to go back at it the same exact way. Let me go back at it this way, because this is what I know how to do. Which is fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want you to feel like, as a listener, I'm preaching to you or anything like that. I just want you to be able to get it. There's nothing wrong with having a one-track mind and thinking a certain way. Nothing wrong with it. That's why there's other motherfuckers like me and other motherfuckers out there that will help you think of other ways. And see, for me, as you being my listener, I'm giving you the info for free because I want you to win. I want to help somebody out there. If somebody out there is listening today to this podcast, I want to help you. The problem that we face and the problem that we run into as young Americans, or even I'll say young Black Americans or minorities, is that we want ownership. But in the Black community, we don't know how to get ownership. We talk about it, but we don't know how to get it. And there ain't nobody out there sharing the information. We kind of got to go at it alone and try to figure out exactly what we want to do. And sometimes doing the wrong thing in our head is the right thing. Yeah, I'm going to say that. Let me say that again. Sometimes doing the wrong thing is the right thing to do. That's called taking a chance. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I have another listener who takes mega chances. And I'm not talking about what you think I might be talking about. This guy takes chances. All the fucking time. And that, again, like failure, is a badge of honor. You have to take a chance on yourself and what you want to do. Fuck it. Fall flat on your face. Because the reward and the payoff later is you being an owner and owning your own shit. Being a controller of your destiny. I brought up Master P in the beginning of the episode. You know why? Because this guy started out as a drug dealer. He started out as a fucking crack pusher, tearing down his neighborhood and his community. Now look at him. I think his latest venture that he's getting into is reality TV. But that's not to say anything that, anything else that this guy done got into. Damon Johns is another one that comes to mind. And if you don't know who Damon Johns is, let me clue you in. Shark Tank is probably what you're familiar with on a broad scale. But let me focus in just a little bit more. Let me make the focal just a little bit more clear for you. FUBU. So if you're young and you don't know what FUBU is, that's for us, by us. It's a brand he started from scratch. The owner of Under Armour. This is another story. Elon Musk, Tesla. You know what? This motherfucker's so radical that in the state of COVID-19 that we're in right now, he decided that it's either he's opening up his plants or he's going to take his plant somewhere else. That's ownership at its finest. He's willing to go to jail and risk it all. There's that word again, risk. He's willing to risk it all so that he can have his own plant reopen and his employees back to work. You got to do nothing but admire shit like that. If you want to be an owner, if you don't want to be an owner, you don't have to be. But take these rules and take these lessons to whatever it is that you want to do. You got to take risks. You got to bet on yourself. Invest in yourself. You got to own that shit. Thanks for listening. First of all, I want to say rest in peace to Breonna Taylor. She was gunned down, 26 years old. She was gunned down and killed by a botched raid back in March. And they just got to stop killing us, man. They got to stop killing us because they're killing the future owners of the world. This podcast is produced and recorded by me. I'm the only one behind the scenes making this podcast happen, so listening and spreading the word will be greatly appreciated. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I'm sure your ears will thank your brain later. Inconsistently consistent. I'm out. This episode of Inconsistently Consistent was produced and recorded by Eric G. Polk, aka Everything Real is Known. This is a Weird Recordings production.